Folks, welcome into another episode of That Betting Show for August 14, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Right Side VP. The Yankees torch the Orioles for the 15th straight time. Teddy throwing the towel in the series for the rest of the year. And Andrew Luck's mysterious injury. Is it time to panic? Let's get right into the hot topics here, Teddy. Andrew Luck, calf injury, now turns into a problem. We didn't hear too much about it, but it turns out he strained his calf, Teddy, way back in March. And then we take a look now. We're hearing it might be a bone issue, might be a high ankle sprain. Markets are already moving on opening day, Teddy. We've talked about this game before, but if you're saying the man that makes the Indy offense go could be down or hampered in this game, that's going to be a big deal to follow throughout the summer here.
Yeah, I felt great. I don't know if you remember when the NFL lines came out. I made one bet off the openers. I bet the I bet the Colts plus 3.5 at the Chargers. And it looked like a great bet. It was down to 3. It was down to 3 even money or close to it at a couple spots. And then all of a sudden the Luck injury comes into play. And look, when do you start worrying? You start worrying when a calf sprain turns into a bone bruise that turns into an ankle injury. That is a little dicey. You worry when your quarterback isn't practicing or on the field yet. You worry about all that stuff if you're Indy. It should be affecting the week 1 line. It should be affecting the season win total for the Colts right now. Jacoby Brissett has filled in admirably at times for Luck. Not last week in the preseason, but he's no Andrew Luck. The Colts will be a very different team if their quarterback does not get healthy. And right now, their quarterback isn't healthy, and it doesn't seem like they know exactly what's wrong or exactly how to fix it.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem here moving forward, because if that's something that started back up in March, they figured this would have been out of the way. And I always like when the owner steps out and talks about an injury where he's not really filled in too much. You have to backtrack on some things. But nevertheless, it's definitely interesting, something to keep an eye on. Hopefully he's there back week 1 and healthy. But it looks like the preseason, Teddy, now going to be added to the equation for Andrew Luck. MLB on Tuesday. Nationals continue to stay on top of that wild card race and break up Joe Ross. How about this? 3 straight quality starts. Joe Ross heading down the stretch, filling in admirably for Max Scherzer at this point here. And the Yankees, as we talked about at the top of the show, stroll to their 15th straight win of the Orioles with an 8-3 victory. Chris Sale, quickest to 2K, didn't really factor into the final decision. But even though those Boston Red Sox walked off the Indians, the opposite happened, Teddy, with the Brewers. They get knocked down when Hader comes in, the ultimate lockdown guy, struggling since the All-Star break here. 3-run blast by Minnesota gives them a little bit of a cushion and some breathing room in the AL Central. Good night of baseball last night, Teddy.
It really was. And, of course, Hader's been vulnerable. You talked about the struggles he's had since the All-Star break. We're talking about a guy who's pitched a lot of high-leverage innings. And if he's not right, the Brewers aren't going anywhere. But that was a big win for Minnesota. They needed that one bad after their division lead evaporated in that home series against Cleveland over the weekend. And we got to talk about what happens when a bad pitcher goes good, because we saw it all over the place yesterday. The Joe Ross saga, as you talked about, who has been awful. Now, 3rd straight gem for Joe Ross. Nova for the White Sox, who's been miserable for years. Well, what's he thrown, like 35 straight innings and just gem after gem? Vargas got the win for the Phillies yesterday. So even though a pitcher might have some rough aggregate stats, be very aware of current form. Ross has been in good current form. Nova's been in good current form. Even Vargas has been all right. And sometimes bottom-tier hurlers can be moneymakers when they turn things around, even if it's just for a little while.
No, you're right. In the back end of the doubleheader, which we saw yesterday, even there was a pitching change with Houston that still doesn't calm down the bats. Ivan Nova still has to go out and pitch a good performance, and it's always tricky that second game, so they took down a nice dog price, which threw a huge dog again today. Seems like a common theme. Whoever the Astros are playing, you're going to be laying $2.50 to $3, depending on the situation. Let's talk a little bit of NFL football around training camp, and this is going to be another story. You know, the Antonio Brown saga sort of calms down a little bit for us, Teddy, but the new triplets, as we saw back in the 90s, you know, the Michael Irvins of the world, the Troy Aikmans of the world, and also Emmitt Smith. You sort of have that little bit of a posturing here with the Dallas Cowboys with their wide receiver, running back, and quarterback situation. Jerry Jones coming out saying, look, I don't want to lose all these guys. I lost DeMarcus Ware a couple of years ago. I don't want to let it happen again. I'm willing to pay all these guys in the top 5 of their position, but these guys don't want to be paid top 5 of their position. They want to be paid top of their position. We'll see how that shakes out here. And Giants owner John Mara states He hopes he doesn't see Daniel Jones play this year, meaning another year of Eli Manning, which I sort of scratch my head and say, didn't you draft this next kid? Hopefully he's going to take the job and run with it. Doesn't look like that's the case here for the New York Giants, or wish they want to. And Bears camp news. We all have eyes on Mitchell Trubisky coming into the season. It's up to him. That Bears defense is ready to go. He's got weapons, but if he's going to throw one or two to the other team every game, Teddy, not going to matter too much with the Chicago Bears. Fun stuff around the NFL.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, we're getting really mixed reports about Trubisky from Bears camp. I've read reports, all right, he's reading defenses better than he was. I've read other reports saying he looks clueless and the coaching staff doesn't trust him at all, and the defense is way ahead of the offense in early, or mid-training camp action for Chicago. So mixed reports from the Bears. The John Mara quote is right. If you're a Giants fan and you want to win this year, you'd rather have Eli and not Daniel Jones behind QB. Jones is at QB. Jones is the prospect. He's the project. He's the guy that if the Giants are going to win next year or the year after, you probably have behind center. But for this year, if I'm a Giants fan, the longer Eli plays, the better a season you're probably having. Worth noting, Antonio Brown news. He was on the practice field by himself long after his teammates were gone yesterday. That's certainly a good sign in Oakland. And as for Dallas, I mean, look, that's a Super Bowl caliber team. They're in win now mode. The owner's trying to pay everybody, and the guys don't want to play? It's a little weird for me. Of course, Jason Garrett's always capable of screwing that up. But right now, Dallas, if they can get their big three paid and happy, that's a scary-looking team, because certainly defensively, the Cowboys look to be an upper echelon squad.
Yeah, the tough part about that too, Ted, is when you're looking at the running back position and how it actually factors in. He still has 2 years, being Zeke Elliott, has 2 years left on his contract. He's sort of that little, nail that's trying to drive it and go, because you do want to get the quarterback done in his last year. You do want to get the wide receiver done in his last year. What you don't expect is getting the running back 2 years ahead of schedule saying, I want my money now, and I want it to be like I'm a free agent and on the top of the market. Should be fun to watch for the rest of the summer with the Dallas Cowboys on how that plays out. Overnight line movers, the best place on the internet to get those moves. We all know it's SBRodds.com. We're going to talk a little bit of football here and some totals. Eagles and the Jags lagging in the offensive department, and it's showing with the total. Teddy opens up at 38, dips down to 34.5. The Eagles and the Jaguars going to take place this week. If we take a look at this game, it's all about backup quarterbacks. If you watch the backup quarterbacks for the Philadelphia Eagles outside of Nate Sudfeld, who got hurt, it was bad. If you watched anybody on the field for the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Baltimore Ravens, it was bad. Teddy, I agree with this line drop here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. This total got shattered down. I mean, that's a big move, even for a preseason game to happen in a relatively short amount of time. What's the story? The Jags had 2.1 yards per play last week. The offensive line couldn't block anyone. There's going to be lots of Gardner Minshew, mustache, and lots of Alex McGough in this game for Jacksonville. That's not necessarily a bet-on QB duo, even in the preseason. You talked about Sudfeld getting hurt for Philadelphia. No Sudfeld this week. If Wentz plays, he's going to get a cup of coffee. Not like he's going to be in there for any extended period of time, which means Cody Kessler and Clayton Thorson, neither guy was good last week. 10 first downs for Philly last week and only 10 points in that ballgame. In fact, these two teams combined for 10 points last week. 34.5 looks high in that regard, but you certainly understand the move to the under in this one.
Let's talk another preseason game here for us, Teddy, and another total that's on the move. The highest line of the week opens up 44.5 and now sitting at 46.5 across SBRodds.com. Preseason game action between the Chiefs and the Steelers. It's a pick'em in this one. The game is on Saturday night, 7:30. Are we seeing points in this one, Teddy?
So it's funny. What I do every week is the exact same process. I put together my numbers before I look at the opening numbers. And then when I look at the opening numbers, I jot down on a piece of paper, I've got a sheet and I'm writing down my initial thoughts, just gut reaction. And my gut reaction to this line, the first time I saw it was over, over. Not surprised at all that we've seen over money in this one. The Kansas City starters could play most of the first half this week if Andy Reid goes according to his plan. And, of course, we know what that offense is capable of doing. They did it last week in their preseason opener. So KC certainly capable of putting up points in bunches if the offense plays in the starters play for the first half. The Henny, Shermer, Litton trio last week combined for 3 touchdown passes. Not like they have a problem at backup QB either. And as for the Steelers, Josh Dobbs and Mason Rudolph bet on for August. They hung 30 last week. The defense allowed well over 300 passing yards. You can understand why this total has been steamed up in early betting action this week.
Time to talk a little bit of baseball here, Teddy. As we're filming the show now, baseball just underway here between Texas and Toronto. A nice afternoon slate. Let's get into some of the little bit games that are going to take place a little later tonight. The Cardinals seeing a little bit of line movement in their direction, opening up Dakota Hudson and Brad Keller. 63% of the tickets offshore, Teddy, coming in on those St. Louis Cardinals. But as we take now, as high as minus 145 at open, now we're seeing it dip back into the low 120s here. Some good action here towards the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, Keller is a guy who the markets have had mixed feelings on. At times this year, the markets have been pretty positive on Brad Keller. At other times this year, the markets have been moving against him on a pretty consistent basis. And of course, the Royals team behind him is pretty abysmal. Keller's last start, rough in Detroit last Friday. Quote, I felt like everything was a little off. I felt like my breaking ball was a little short. It wasn't getting the place. My fastball just wasn't where I wanted it to go. I felt like we made some pretty good adjustments in the middle of the game, put some zeros up there, and tried to keep the team in it as much as I could, then ran into a snag at the end of the sixth. Keller, again, we've seen two-way action on this game already. A bunch of St. Louis money initially betting against him, and now a bunch of KC money saying, well, that last start was last start. The adjustments have been made. And prior to his current rough form, he had three previous starts.
Watch what you bet right here on that betting show for August 14, 2019. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Hit those notes perfectly there, Teddy. Welcome back. Cole Hamels to the city of Philadelphia is going to be making his first start in Philadelphia since being traded away. Cubs coming in to play the Phillies. Phillies sit at minus 115 here with a total of 9. Hamels versus Nova, a really good pitching matchup. And how about last night? That ace, Teddy, Vargas on the mound propels the Phillies to a 4-2 victory last night. We'll see if they can make it 2 in a row as these two teams fight for playoff seeding, or should I say, hopefully a playoff spot down the line.
Yeah, so this amazed me when I saw it written, and I had to go back and check. You know what the longest winning streak of the season for the Phillies is this year?
I think it's like 4 games, like 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. They've yet to win 5 in a row this year. There's been no extended stretch of excellence. They've been basically mediocre all year. Of course, the Cubs haven't been mediocre all year. They've been great at home, a World Series team at home, and they're, 13 games under 500 on the highway. Shut down again yesterday. The Hamel's been real good. Last time out, he struggled. He lasted only 3 innings, 5 runs, 8 hits. Of course, the Cubs won that game. But in his 7 previous starts prior to last time out, he was brilliant. Basically in all of them, an ERA of 1.07 during that span. He's been in good form. You can expect Hamels to bring his A game to Philadelphia. All that being said, here's a Phillies team. They just fired their hitting coach, Rice Hoskins. Ultimately, it falls on the shoulders of the players. We can sit here and play the what-if game, but the front office has made a decision they think will put us in a position to make a run here. I'm not excited about the Phillies right now. I'm really not. Even with Nola on the hill, who's been pretty darn good. He's their ace. I don't trust him today. Cubs are past despite Chicago's road woes for this better.
What are you saying, Teddy? Through the first 6 innings yesterday where the Phillies struck out 14 times, that's not going to be appealing to you today with Cole Hamels on the mound? Well, beggars can be choosers here for me. I hope the Phillies win. That's as much as I can say on that one. Can the Mets rebound on Wednesday? Tough injury information. Checking out some things here on the online. Jeff McNeil goes down with an injury on a hamstring, and that's tough because that guy's going to be leading off your squad. That guy's going to be hitting, 320, 330 on the season. Now you're going to run into a little bit of adversity where it's all going good for the Mets. Now you're stepping up and leveling up in competition. Braves take them down last night. We'll see what happens tonight. It's going to be Mats versus Keuchel. The Mets come in 61-58. Those first-place Braves, Teddy, 71-50.
Yeah, I hate to go back to the last game, but you brought up the injury. I'm like, I forgot to mention Corey Dickerson for Philadelphia got hit in the hand yesterday. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to go tonight for the Phillies. And the Mets, they've had their fair share of injuries. All of a sudden, the Mets had that incredible run, and then they kept it going in that first series at home against elite teams. Now they've lost back-to-back games. And this is where I think the Mets' run comes to an end. Now, Mets does not have a great track record against Atlanta. Mets does not have a great track record in recent weeks. He pitched well last time out, but that came after getting bombed by the Pirates in his previous start. He's talking about being more deliberate on the mound, being slower. Throughout the game, I'm just trying to be mindful of still working quick, but just taking a second every once in a while, not throw a bad pitch because I'm rushing instead of taking my time and focusing on the next pitch. It was definitely a conscious effort and also beat the Heat. So we'll see if he does that again today. It may have helped him last time out. Keuchel hasn't been good. The Braves have lost 4 of his last 5 starts. He got bombed last time by the Marlins. That's a red flag. Give up 3 dingers in that ballgame, 8 runs, 10 hits, and just 3 and 2/3. His 3rd straight loss. So the lean is towards Atlanta in general right now. I'm looking to go against the Mets after this extended stretch of excellence as the Mets schedule toughens. I don't trust Keuchel in this ballgame. I don't know that I trust the Braves bullpen behind him. Maybe look at the over tonight. Don't trust the side. So that's the lean. Well, let's look for runs in Atlanta this evening.
Third game of our triple header here on Watch What You Bet here on That Betting Show. Just like Frankenstein, Teddy, it's alive! Those Pirates, they are alive at the plate. It's amazing. Angels come into this one minus 122 with a total of 10. The Pirates at 50 and 69 left dead and buried, somehow getting up off the mat and playing these Angels tough out there in Anaheim. We'll see if they can put up another double-digit performance, but the offense has woken up. Tonight, you're going to face a lefty on the mound. They'll stack right-handed batters. Teddy, can we get another offensive explosion from these Pittsburgh Pirates?
And this is worth noting, because even the worst teams in baseball, and the Pirates were 4-24 since the All-Star break prior to these 2 wins. Even the very worst teams in the midst of the very worst slumps, they go 4-24 over one 28-game span. They're not going 4-24 over the next 28-game span. There's only so bad and only so many losses the team's going to have. They're going to find ways to win games. And guys who have been slumping are going to find ways to get out of slump. Josh Bell. He didn't hit a home run for 26 games. He has 4 homers in the last 3. He's getting going right now. The rookie left fielder, Brian Reynolds, he's leading the NL in the major leagues in batting average right now. So they're getting some guys who are hot and finally finding ways to hit. And it's like the Angels are a good team. They've lost They're 4-14 their last 18 right now. And Archer's not really a bet-on guy necessarily. He hasn't won in his last 11 starts, but his last 2, no decisions each time, 15 strikeouts, 12 innings. He's pitched well both times. There may be some bet on right there. For Dylan Peters for LA, he got hit hard by the Red Sox last time out, but he matched his career high with 8 strikeouts and lasted 6 full innings against a potent Boston lineup. This will be the first time that the Pirates have seen this particular young lefty, and a lot of times the young lefties have some success their first try around the league.
Teddy, our off the mic section here hits really close to home for you here, and we're going to go over this little, synopsis, trademarking of words, which you see it a lot. Odell Beckham does it. Anytime you have Zion Williamson does it. Anytime you have a catchphrase saying that you believe that you can sell, put on a shirt, and make some money in, you try to extend it. But usually it's like, your own likeliness. But how about this one, Teddy? Trademarking the word "the," as in the Ohio State University. Ohio State seeking a trademark to be used on clothing and hats. Ohio State has previously trademarked coaches Woody Hayes and Urban Meyer. Teddy, I have a business opportunity that we can't lose on. We're going to go out and trademark every single word possible, and it's going to start with I and end, and we're going to be millionaires. What do you think about Ohio State saying, you know what? We say the word "the," it's ours, and we want money for it.
Okay, let's start with this, okay? I am a Michigan man, all right? So you already know what I think about this. Secondly, you do. It's about the university as a corporation making more money than they already do. I understand that in this country, we like to think about universities as being educational facilities, and there's something to do with helping to no, universities are corporations that get tax benefits, and they're designed to make money. And that's what Ohio State's trying to do here. Sure, you can trademark "the," but I agree with you. All we have to do is trademark I and and all the 1- and 2-letter words, though I don't know if those trademarks are going to get approved. I don't know if this one's going to get approved for Ohio State either. Did it get approved? I know that they're trying to get it approved, but if I had to vote, heck, I'm a Michigan man. I'm voting no.
We're trademarking today, Teddy. Getting out of here in 20 minutes or less, hitting that turbo button to make sure you have the information that you need to complete your day here on That Betting Show. Thank you for tuning in for August 14, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Severanti. Give him a follow at Teddy_covers on Twitter. I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside VP. Join us tomorrow. It's Thursday, a football Thursday. We'll get you ready for the weekend and everything that has to do with the NFL. Have a good night now.